I've spent most of my professional career in the criminal justice system. I've worked as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney. And for the last 10 years or so, I've worked on criminal justice policy, trying to figure out how to balance the rights of defendants and my clients with the justice imposed by the system or the demands of public safety. And I've tried to, for years, figure out what is the right way to do things. Is there a better way to do things? Well, a couple years ago, I heard a talk by a business leader in Utah. His name is Brad Bonham. And he talked about a point in his business where he realized that they had the data and the information that they needed in order to make the right decisions, but they weren't analyzing that data or capturing that data in a way that allowed them to make the best decisions. And they made a change in their business where they hired a data analyst to come in and take all that data and make it actionable, to make it informative so that they could make the right decision before they made the decision. They knew what the answer was. And I have to tell you, a light bulb kind of turned on for me. And I realized, well, we could do that in the criminal justice system. And Utah specifically can do that potentially better than anywhere else. Utah, for the last several years, has invested millions of dollars into coordinating different data collection systems and putting all of this data into one place. The Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice has worked with police departments, jails, prosecutors' offices, and the courts to try to connect all of the systems so that they can get all of this data in one place. So we are far along the process of being able to have the data sources that we need in order to really understand all of the different things that are happening in the criminal justice system. And so the epiphany that I had is if we're collecting all of this data, potentially what we can do is from the very first time somebody comes into contact with the criminal justice system, we can start to compile this data and figure out what happened along the way. And we already know generally a lot of the criminogenic factors that contribute to whether or not someone's more or less likely to commit a crime. For example, someone's age or their employment status or their family situation, or whether or not they have a mental health issue or a substance abuse issue. And we have tools like risk assessments that help us try to collect this data and decide, whether someone is more or less likely to commit a crime. But we don't aggregate this data and put it all into a system where we can start to see all of the trends that are happening or all of the information that it can tell us in all of the cases in the state. But we're moving in that direction. And so when I heard about this change that was made in a successful business, I thought we should be doing that in Utah. And now that we have this data collection process set up, here's what we can do. We can, for each case that happens, each case that comes into the criminal justice system, we can analyze what are the risk factors associated with certain individuals. Then, what happened? Were they arrested or were they given a citation? And then, were they given bail or were they held in jail without bail? Or were they released to some kind of pretrial supervision? And if they were held in jail, did they lose their job at that point? And later on, we can start to see, depending on what their risk factors were, and then depending on what things we did in those cases, we can start to see what in fact worked and what didn't work. And we can start to see if we put them in this drug treatment program, or if we helped get them mental health services, or if we connected somebody with homelessness services, what types of programs were more successful or less successful? I mean, potentially even small differences. If we can see that one program works 45% of the time and the other program works 52% of the time, we will start to understand what things are making a difference in the long run. We can start to make the right decisions because we know what the outcome is going to be if we can look at what's working and what isn't. I'm so excited by this idea because we've been dealing with all of these complex factors in the criminal justice system that are so hard to comprehend and understand, and all of these factors overlap, whether or not somebody has strong ties to their family, or whether or not somebody deals with various types of mental illness. And sometimes we've used a one-size-fits-all approach. Sometimes we think that, we just need to have more consequences so that somebody knows that they shouldn't do this. But that doesn't attack the underlying issues, and it doesn't tell us what types of solutions are most likely to work. We have a potentially revolutionary opportunity to understand criminal justice and understand what will work, not only for Utah, but also for Utah to be a leader in the United States and potentially the world. That's my hope, is that all of these stakeholders and people interested in criminal justice and public safety and fairness can catch this same vision, and we can come together and do what we need to do in order to seize this opportunity to make what's potentially a world-changing discovery, and all work together to achieve both a more fair and a more safe system and society for all of us.